I'm 17 years old, and Madison College is a great way for me to kickstart my career. I'm actually super excited that my classes are online. I really enjoy online learning. With the support you get from Madison College and your teachers, the teachers are still genuine. You still get their support through your emails. If you don't understand something, you just contact them, and they really help you out and support you.
Good afternoon. This is Robert Chappell, Executive Editor of Madison365, with your daily update for Saturday, August 22nd. We'll talk about some coronavirus, mostly coronavirus today because the news is not good. And if you have questions or comments, drop them in the comments there on the Facebook Live, and we will catch those questions at the end. Don't wait till the end. You don't need to wait until the end to put your questions there, but we will. I'll just go through them after we get through the data here. Okay, we have fewer tests today than yesterday. This is the sixth day out of the past 7 that we've had fewer than 10,000 tests. Now, you remember a while ago, when the governor first said he wanted us to do 12,000 tests a day, that seemed like a really, really big number, because at that time we were doing about 1,500 tests a day, and like if we got a day of over 100 new cases, that was like a big problem. But obviously, since May, we've been at this where we've been in the 12,000 tests every day range. Today, this week, it's been down. Our 7-day average of tests actually is less than 10,000 now for the past 7 days. So that's never a good sign. That said, fewer tests today than yesterday actually yielded more cases. You'd think if when the tests go up, the cases go up, not so much today. So today we had about 8,700 tests, which is frankly not enough. But we got 950 positive cases, almost 1,000. And I'm just gonna checking my spreadsheet here from yesterday to see. Yesterday we had 10,500 tests, 826 positive results. Today we have 8,700 tests, 950. And what that means is that our positive test rate, which is supposed to be, 3%, is 10.9. What the public health folks will tell you is if you're keeping that below 10, you're kind of you're more or less mitigating the spread, and you're keeping it from being catastrophic. If you are keeping that below 3%, then you really have it suppressed. You're really on the other side of the curve. So today being over 10 is not good news. Our 7-day average now of that percentage is 8.4. 14-day average is 7.6, which means that it's been worse in the past 7 days than it was the 7 days before that. We're 6 months into this thing. And in Wisconsin, at least, you can't with 10.9% today, 8.3% over the past 7 days. At least from a spread perspective, there's no way we can actually legitimately say that we have it under control in Wisconsin. We're not the only state, obviously, struggling with this. A lot of states are. A lot of states have much higher numbers than we do because they're more populous. But in any case, the one piece of good news today is 7,600 cases of those cases are active. 7,600, which is about the same as yesterday, but is considerably lower than it has been. That number's actually been trending downward slightly, so that's good. Our total cases up to this point since March is now at 70,009. So with those, I mean, with understanding that these numbers basically tell you that 6 months in, we don't have much control over this. And I was flipping back through the past couple of months and just looking at June, and it didn't really feel like we had things under control. It felt like things were kind of fine, but like still kind of bad. But the percentage of positives for the entire month of June was 3.5%. 349 new cases on average every day. In May, it was 6.3. In April, it was 9.5. Right? April was really when things got really critical in Wisconsin. So you go from 9.5 in April to 6.3 in May to 3.5 in June. And you think things are going in the right direction. And you think all of us pitched in together. We shut down everything. Even when the Supreme Court overturned the safer at home order, for a month after that, we still kept our positive test rate down to 3.5%. And then we go back up to 7.1, and now in August, who knows what the full we don't have the entire. We could calculate if we wanted to the entire month of August, but we haven't. But at this point, we're at 8.3, and if we go like that, continue that way for the rest of this week, we'll end up higher than that. We'll end up in the 8.5 to 9 range. It just feels like we wasted a lot of time. I shouldn't say that. We didn't waste the time because these would all be much worse now if we hadn't done all those mitigation things. But I feel like a lot of us sacrificed a lot to stay home, to keep our kids home, to educate our kids at home, to not travel, to wear masks, to whatever. And we made a lot of progress together, and then we just gave it all back. And it's tremendously frustrating. And now we're in a position to where we're at 10.9 today. We're at 950 new cases today. We're at 13 more deaths today. The one bright spot here is if you look back through the previous months, the daily death average is actually lower today than it was in May. In May it was 19. Today we're at 6 a day for the past 7 days and the past 14 days. So that's, we've been able to actually mitigate the deaths a little bit. I'm not sure exactly how, but anyway, the spread of this thing is not under control. We're talking about starting school. And the University of Wisconsin is going to have, 40,000 undergraduates in a couple weeks. Here in Madison, downtown, where things are spreading pretty quick. And lots of schools are starting in person. Not in Dane County. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. We'll get to that. But it just feels to me like a fantasy that university education is going to continue for as past the first couple of weeks. And I would not be shocked also. Well, let me get through the rest of these numbers. And then we'll do a little bit of political prognostication. How about that? 7-day average of new cases right now is 708. 14-day average of new cases is 727. That's partly because the past 7 days we've had fewer tests, and therefore, even though the percentage has been higher, the number of cases has actually been lower per day just because fewer tests. Over the past 7 days, the percentage of positive tests has averaged, as I said, 8.3%, 7.6% over the past 14 days. 13 more fatalities today, 4 of those in Milwaukee County, 2 in Eau Claire County, which I think only had 2 before that. So now the death toll in Eau Claire County has doubled overnight. Then 1 each in Fond du Lac, Kenosha, Marinette, Taylor, Washington, Waupaca, and Winnebago counties have all lost citizens in the past couple of days. They're all reported today, but as we've learned, fatalities take a couple of days to be reported. So we're still at 18 people who've tested positive, but then died of other causes. So those folks are counted in the total case count, but not in the death count. 184 new cases in Milwaukee County today, 11.6% positive there in Milwaukee County. So higher than the state average, but not by much. Another big day in Brown County. I really don't know what's happening there. There's an outbreak in the prison, the Brown County Correctional Institution, which is a state prison. But that, so far that we know of, only accounts for 60 cases, which is a lot in one location. To have 60 cases out of 1,000 people who live there is still a lot. But that's the last we heard. There may have been more since then, but they did have triple digits of cases on Wednesday and on Thursday at over 100 cases. And today we have 164 in Brown County. So I don't believe that could be entirely attributed to the prison. It might be, but I don't think so. So I'm going to see if I can figure out what's going on there. Calumet County today, again, 10 new cases, 10% positive, so about the same as the state. Clark County, I think it's Clark County's first appearance on my list, with 13 new cases and 30% positive tests, 33-0. Fond du Lac County, 37 cases and 23% positive tests. Greene County, 12 cases, 16% positive. Marinette County, 16 cases, 18.6% positives. Oconto County, still going, and Oconto County, 12 new cases, 19.2% positive. Outagamie County, 30 cases, 17.25%. St. Croix County, 12 cases, 12.6%. Walworth County, 18 cases, 12.9% positive. Washington County, 38 cases and 11.6% positive. Waukesha County, 75 new cases and 11.9% positive tests. A couple other spots just to note that have slightly better percentages, but still higher case counts. Dane County has 55 new cases today, 8.4% positive tests. Jefferson County, 11 cases, 7.9, basically 8% positive tests in Jefferson County, which is, the thing is 8% is really high, but it's lower than the state average. So that's good for them, La Crosse County, 14 cases, 8.6% positive. Manitowoc County, 10 cases, 6.2% positive. So not too bad there. Ozaukee County, 10 cases, again, 9.7% positive, which is high, but lower than the state average. Racine County, 32 cases, 6.5% positive. Rock County, 19 cases at 8% positive. Sheboygan County, also 8% positive with 12 new cases. And finally, Winnebago County, maybe the best of the bunch today, 15 cases and 3.7% positives. Hospitalizations did fall. That's the other piece of good news today. 333 currently hospitalized. That's 17 fewer than it was yesterday, 4 fewer than it was a week ago. 108 of those are in ICU. Again, we don't mention hospitalizations just to talk about capacity. We talk about hospitalizations in terms of just as a barometer, as a measure of how people are doing, how people are, when people get sick, how sick are they, right? Racial disparities continue to be an issue, although slightly better today. The total cases of the 70,000 total cases, about 22% are still Latino, which is about 3 times the proportion of the population of the state that's Latino. 14% of today's new cases are Latino. The percentage of the total number of cases that are Black has fallen to 13%, which is still more than double the Black proportion of the population. So if you're Black, you're more than twice as likely to have had COVID. Deaths are still 20% Black. So you're still more than 3 times as likely to die from it if you get it if you're Black, which is not good at all. The rate of transmission is 1.07 still, same as was yesterday. Which means that each round of infection is slightly higher or slightly larger than the previous round. So if they have 100 people who are sick, they will likely, statistically speaking, they will likely pass it on to 107 other people. Which tonight you have 207 sick people, and those 207 will pass it on to another 110 or so, 112. So each round of infection gets larger and it continues to spread. If that number is below 1, each round of infection is smaller and it will eventually go away. Right? So the fact that that's over 1 now for over a week is not good news at all. So let's talk about some news that broke late yesterday, which is some people very frustrated. Public Health Madison-Dane County ordered all schools to go fully online beginning Monday for grades 3 through 12. A couple of things here. What they're saying is that any school in Dane County can open for kindergarten through 2nd grade because kids of that age, as we know, are just at less risk and at less risk of becoming transmitters. Any kids over like 7 or 8 years old, especially once you get past 10, you're basically like an adult in terms of your ability to catch the virus and spread it. So that's why they're splitting those things up. Also, any school that offers a K-12 program has to offer a virtual option to families under this new order. What this says is a lot of private schools in Madison had announced they were going to meet in person. So this order applies to public and private schools. Most of the public school districts in Dane County had already said they were going to start virtual. Now, a lot of them had also said that they were going to start virtual and then reassess after the first quarter. But they didn't have a single set of sort of guidelines to assess by. So what this order does also is give schools a metric to watch for. And what the metric is to consider reopening grades 3 through 5, Dane County must sustain a 14-day average of 39 cases per day for 4 consecutive weeks. In order for public health to consider reopening classes, reopening grades 6 through 12 for in-person instruction, Dane County must sustain at or below a 14-day average of 19 cases per day for 4 consecutive weeks. For context, right now, I believe we were at about 45 cases per day. Now, again, what's interesting about that is cases per day is also affected by the number of tests. So if Dane County suddenly does a lot more tests and catches a lot more positive cases, that could affect us. Should Dane County's average number of cases per day over any 2-week period go above 54, public health will consider closing all schools, just K through 12, and just shut them all down. I'm sorry, I said 45. As of Friday, the Dane County is averaging 42 cases over the past 2 weeks. So to get down from 42 to 39, to be able to open up to 5th grade, is not real far, but it has to keep it below 39 for 4 consecutive weeks. So the earliest, like if there's a sudden turnaround in Dane County and suddenly drops to 38 cases per day tomorrow, we still wouldn't see K through 5 open for at least a month. And to get down to 19 cases per day to be able to open middle school and high schools, that's a stretch. That's going to be a while. Now, I don't know if this is going to be challenged in court. I know there's some people on social media that are upset about this. Primarily, they're upset that it happened so late in the summer. That some of these schools were starting next week, and now they have to change everything. I don't know to what extent those schools or school districts were involved in this decision making or were consulted. It's possible that the schools actually wanted this. So, to prognosticate a little bit, if just given the numbers where they are now, the rate of transmission number is much lower now than it was in March. In March, we didn't know really what it was. We know now that mid-March in Wisconsin, the rate of transmission was about 2.5, which is catastrophically bad, right? I mean, if you're at 2.5, the number of people who are sick is going to double every couple of days. But we didn't have very much testing in mid-March. We just knew things you could just sort of see across the country things going bad. And with very limited information, and with numbers that aren't nearly as bad as these numbers, the governor's closed all the schools statewide. And then, however many weeks later, issued the safer at home order. A couple, like 3 or 4 weeks later after that. The other thing that's to make note of is the mandated mask wearing order statewide. Went into effect 3 weeks ago. We should, at this point, be seeing the effect of that mask order. So either that mask order has not had much of impact, or it has had an impact, but there are other factors such that our numbers would be even more catastrophically bad right now without the mask order. It's possible that the masks have kept us from getting worse than we are, but the mask order doesn't seem to have made things better, unfortunately. Doesn't mean it was the wrong decision. Because it's possible, like I said, that other factors, people just being out and about more, have kept our numbers high. And it's perhaps that maybe without the mask order, we'd be at 15% today instead of 10.9. In any case, it's been long enough that we're seeing this is the numbers with the mask order. Now, again, I will remind you that the Republican legislature, again, this is not an opinion of mine. This is nothing to say about the legislators or the Republican Party. It's just a fact that the Republican legislature of Wisconsin is not interested in the state intervening to stop the spread of the virus. They seem to philosophically feel that it's not the state's place to do that. We can argue, we can debate that, but that's the stance of the Republicans in the legislature right now, and it has been. So what that tells me is if the governor attempts to mitigate these numbers with another safer at home type order, it'll go back into court. Where, who knows what the court would do on a second round. I think it's entirely possible that the governor might extend school closures. I would not be shocked at all to hear. I was in the room I was at Madison Metropolitan School District when Madison Metropolitan School District was about to announce that they were going to move spring break and stay closed for like 2 extra days, and that was going to be their solution. And during that press conference, the word came that the state was closing all schools. That was a crazy day, and it was shocking. I was shocked because, as I said, the numbers, we didn't have much in the way of numbers at that point. Today, given Dane County's order, given the way these numbers are looking, given that the state probably has more information, or at least more comprehensive data. Not that they're hiding any data, but they have whole departments of people dealing with this data every day. Knowing what they know, I would not be shocked at all if there's a statewide order very soon, closing all schools and closing all universities. Please don't run to Facebook and Twitter and announce that I have announced that that the governor is going to close all universities. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I would not be surprised if that happened. I'm not even going to say whether it should happen or not because I don't know. But given the numbers the way they are, I would not be surprised if the administration at least attempts to do that. So that's what I have on coronavirus. Let's see if we can catch some questions. Paula McGuire lives for my reports. Thank you. I appreciate that. Is there a way to know if fewer tests represent fewer asymptomatic people being tested? Cheryl Henderson asks that. I'm not sure I understand that question. Is there a way to know if fewer tests represents fewer asymptomatic? Oh, yes. Yeah, I think the answer is yes. I think that when we see fewer tests, I think it's just that I would infer from a lower number of tests that people who do not immediately need to be tested are becoming less likely to go get tested. And more people, a higher proportion of the people who are getting tested are those who are feeling symptoms or who feel that they may have been exposed. For a while there, like in late May into June and even through much of July, there was like a 4-hour wait at the Atlanta Energy Center because people who didn't have any necessarily reason to believe they'd been exposed still went to get tested. And the fact is that still in Dane County, and Dane County is not unusual in this, but this is the one number that I know, that Dane County, 41% of people who are infected do not know where they got it. What that means is you should not only get tested if you think you've been exposed. Because if you did get exposed, there's about a 40% chance that you don't know it. So don't wait to get tested until you've been exposed because, you may have been exposed already and not know it. And 40% of those people who got sick were exposed without knowing it. But I do think that there are fewer people who aren't very sick who are getting tested. I hope that answers the question. Transmission rate is 1.07, as I mentioned. I explained that, I think. How is UW going to enforce the Dane mask order? They are not, basically. The University of Wisconsin properties are not subject to county ordinance. The UW has its own mask policy. They are going to be monitoring all campus spaces. They're going to have people for example, Wisconsin Union, they're going to have people at the door making sure that only students are going in and and that they're all wearing masks and stuff like that. But they're not. It's not they're not subject to the Dane County order, but they are going to be enforcing mask wearing. Yeah. Let's see what else if we're going. I think I see a lot of great comments. Um, but I think it's all the questions. Um, one other. Um, sorry, that's all the coronavirus news for today. It's not great news. If you want something happier to read, there's we just finished publishing our full list of our first ever list of the 48 most influential Asian American leaders in Wisconsin. I'm going to drop a link in the comments here for you. If I can find the right tab. There we go. That's the full list. We published that every day over the past week. Post 9 or 10 of them every day, and that's the full list right there. A lot of people you probably have never heard of, but are doing great work in the communities. So take a look at that when you have a minute. Some of those folks will be represented at the Wisconsin Leadership Summit, along with lots of other people from our previous lists, our Black Power list, our Latino list, our Native American list. So check that out, wisconsinleadershipsummit.com to register for that. It's October 5th through the 9th. It is, again, all virtual this year. That is the news for today. If you all this information is important. It's our mission as a nonprofit news outlet to keep you informed, and to help you make decisions armed with the best information. We will never charge you for access to that information, because we are a nonprofit news outlet. So if you are able to support us in our work, so we can keep this all free for you, go to Madison365.org/donate and throw us a few dollars and help out. That's all I have for today. Thank you so much for your attention. Sorry I went a little bit long today, but enjoy your Saturday evening, and we will see you again tomorrow.